In 1975, Terry Nation, one of the best-known writers in British television, went to a meeting with Ronnie Marsh, the BBC head of drama series, with several ideas for TV shows. The one with the winning elevator pitch was The Dirty Dozen in Space, an adventure series combining the action and imagination of Doctor Who and the adult characters and complexities of a police series like The Sweeney. 3 years later, with Star Wars heralding a new sci-fi era, Blake 7 hit primetime television. Despite a low budget that pushed its production team to the limits of their ingenuity, personalities, dialogue, and attitude of this programme would have a legacy that is still felt in modern genre TV. Welcome back to Very British Futures, the podcast about television science fiction produced by the UK. Today we're tackling one of the biggest shows of all in terms of fame and impact on a couple of generations of British star kids, Blake 7. Joining me at the controls, wearing the best resistance fighter outfits the Liberator can provide, our returning guest, actor Amy Elizabeth, and New York Times best-selling author Una McCormack, who, incidentally, has written 3 Blake 7 stories for the licensed Big Finish range. Hello and welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Good to see you. Hello.
It's great to see you both too, and I'm looking forward to talking about this amazing series. There's a spoiler for you. That's where I'm going to...
Are we okay with spoilers after 40-odd years? Do we have to warn people by now?
We should check out whether we are or not, shouldn't we? I think
we should. I think I am going to say there will be spoilers.
Okay,
in this
all right.
Conversation.
Good.
Blake 7 ran for 4 seasons and 52 episodes between 1978 and 1981. It was broadcast on BBC One on weekday evenings. Produced by David Maloney for 3 seasons and Veer Lorimer for the final year. In the far future, most of humanity lives under the oppressive rule of the Federation. On Earth, Rog Blake discovers his memory has been altered and he was once a leader of the Resistance. Sentenced to life imprisonment on Cygnus Alpha, his prison ship encounters an abandoned alien cruiser. Blake hijacks it along with Jenna, a smuggler, and Avon, an embezzler and computer genius. Rescuing 2 more fellow prisoners, expert locksmith Villa and murderer Gann, together with Callie, an alien resistance fighter, Blake begins a fight back against the Federation. He renames the powerful vessel Liberator. In time, this group of misfits inspires rebellion across the Federation, making their capture a priority for Supreme Commander Servalan and Space Commander Travis. Eventually, Blake goes missing in action, and Avon takes over the leadership. Tarrant, a mercenary, and Dana, a weapons expert, join the Liberator. The Federation descends into disarray following an intergalactic war. After the Liberator is destroyed, the survivors eventually hijack an impressive ship named Scorpio, whilst Avon tries to organise a new alliance to defeat the resurgent Federation. And to start off with, and I'll start with Una, and ask, how did you first encounter Blake 7?
So I was the youngest of 6 kids, and there was always a lot of arguments, as you can imagine, about what we were going to watch on telly. And Blake 7 clashed with Coronation Street. And notoriously, I backed Team Coronation Street. And it wasn't until my dad got sick of all the quarrelling, and it was the first person in our town to rent a video cassette recorder that I started to watch play. He just had enough of the arguments, so it's worth it. And so my first encounter wasn't season 1 or 2; it was some repeats of season 3. There were a handful of it wasn't the whole season. It must have been late in 1980, so that gap between season 3 and season 4. So my first exposure to Blake Seven was to the episode Aftermath, which is not a bad one to come in on, actually. But I was very cross with myself for years after, because it was never repeated.
How about yourself, Amy?
Well, that no repeats issue, rather unusual for the BBC, of course. And the first season of Blake Seven aired slightly before I was born. So for me, it was UK Gold in the 90s.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'd heard a lot about Blake Seven, partially in reverential whispered tones and partially a bit mocking. But everybody agreed that it had the most shocking ending. And this was obviously the mid-90s. So this was, 13, 15 years after it ended. And people were still talking about it.
Oh, absolutely.
So I was very intrigued to watch these repeats, and I just loved it from the off. Bearing in mind, like I said, I'm coming in a long time later.
Yeah.
And it still held up. And I think it still holds up now. I'd recommend it to anybody. And we know it had a budget, it had a budget of tuppence halfpenny and so on. But look what it did with it. If you watch it properly, you go, wow. What was it? £50 an episode or something like that? And it took over from a top show.
I think. Yeah.
And yet you've got one of the best spaceships I've ever seen. And the interior of the Liberator, just that one huge set, that's obviously where the money went. And I think that's amazing and speaks very distinctly about Blake Seven being a little bit different to a lot of stuff because, well, there's a comfy settee for a start. You don't get that on the Enterprise and these sort of like cramped little ships like you get in Firefly and that kind of thing. Yeah, there's somewhere to play space Monopoly and drink luridly coloured cocktails.
Have space snacks and watch space television. Yeah.
Well, for the first time you got people who lived in space and the sense that space is very, very big. If you could go 1,000 times the speed of light, it'd still take roughly 2 days to reach our nearest star. You've just got to have somewhere to kick up and watch your little plastic tablet thing.
Or your beautiful
Walkman.
wooden thing. I love their view screen with the beautiful wood effect, kind of. Yeah, it's very 1950s, isn't it? Like a 50s wireless or something.
It's great, and of course it's deliberate. It's not the utilitarianism of the Federation. So
exactly that.
It's great. But for me, Blake Seven just came on the screen, and I was smitten completely from the off.
So did you go in with the first episode then, or were you? Yeah, right. So you went in with the way back, right? Which is a cracker. I got to do it all the way through, and it was because you've got let's face it, a very simple, recognisable storyline. A group of inexplicably talented misfits are thrown together, and they've got to run the evil gang out of town. It's an instantly recognisable story. Robin Hood, Dirty Dozen.
It's then what you do with it. A lot of people, they'll throw the word Shakespearean around as if it's some kind of insult to Blake Seven. But no, you take a solid story with a set of solid characters, and then you weave them in a surprising way.
And a bunch of Shakespearean actors. Let's not forget. Gareth Thomas, Stephen Greif. They're all stage actors, aren't they?
Exactly. And the conviction with which everybody held fast to this, what could have been, like you say, across from Coronation Street, 2-bit watershed filler. They didn't have to take it that seriously, but I'm so glad they did.
They do, yeah. Perhaps not in the way Chris Boucher wanted them to. But I still think we'll come back to that one.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing I really love about Blake Seven is everyone is working so hard on it. I was in preparation of this. I was reading an interview with Chris Boucher, where he said, you don't have the budget of George Lucas. You've got to have interesting people and interesting words, which is a good basis. And I think he and Terry Nation make a bit of a dream team in those early days, because you've got Terry Nation, who comes from ITC, and he's got all that adventure story expertise, and Chris Boucher's just feel for dialogue and characters that works really well. Just to turn it on, you and to reveal my age, actually, I watched it at the time when it was on. Although weirdly, I missed the first episode, and for some reason that I cannot remember now, I actually wasn't going to watch it after that because I'd missed the first episode, and so thankfully my dad, who knew this was very odd and he knew this would be right up my street, persuaded me to watch it and saw all the rest. But I didn't actually catch up with The Way Back until I think it was UK Gold.
Yeah.
When I finally got around to seeing that.
There was some videos released in the late 80s, but there were 4 videos released, but they were edited together episodes. So The Way Back was one of those, but there was lots cut out. And then I think really it wasn't until UK Gold, and then when they started releasing 2 episodes per cassette, that you could kind of see it again. So all I saw of the first 2 seasons, every week I'd watch Telly Addicts in the hope that they had a clip from Blake Seven on. One time it paid off, and I got a little bit from, I think it's the start of Breakdown, as I can't remember now, but oh my God, it's Break 7, I've finally seen Jenna on screen, you know. But anyway, that'll teach you to watch soaps.
Seven is, though, if you do come in on season 3, it's not actually that bad.
Good place to come in. Yeah.
If you're going to come in late, I mean, it's Blake 7 with no Blake. Who does that?
Well, yeah, Blake 7 does, for quite a lot of it.
Another thing I like about the program, it's that, like you just mentioned, the weird treatment of the videos there, and the whole of Blake 7 seems to be treated in this slightly bizarre manner by the BBC. And it's accidentally brave because of these strange things it suddenly has to deal with. Like season 3 should have been it, and then right in the last episode, of course, famously getting rung up and going, "Oh, can we have a season 4?"
Yeah.
I was going to say, looked at the smoking remains of the model.
It's like
we can do it. Although I sort of have a feeling that people were kind of used to getting that kind of instruction from on high at the BBC. There'd always be some kind of random thing, but I think that science fiction falls out of favour, doesn't it? It's not really a kind of. It's not the glossy 80s that I think they're trying to make the BBC. It's all El Dorado and all that kind of thing, isn't it? And Blake's Doctor Who's falling out of favour as well. So it's poor old Blake 7 really didn't have a chance, and they really do quite definitively end it.
I think it was the beginning of that kind of youth TV era as well.
Yeah,
and I don't think the BBC knew, pink wigs and day-glow punks just weren't cutting it. They didn't quite know how to move it on.
No. And 10 years on, it's a completely bit different ball game. But I'm rewatching Babylon 5 at the moment, and you're still seeing, it's on Deep Space Nine's the same. Just rewatch that. It's still small sets. It's still a lot of dialogue. It's still a tight ensemble cast that's really, it depends on the dialogue. And a lot of the kind of big stuff that you would see on a show now is 2 people saying to each other, "Oh, we're losing badly in the Eluxilon sector, Captain." That's exactly what you get, like some of these kind of broad brush narratives in the background. Somebody's just going to have to do with dialogue because, they don't have George Lucas's budget. Exactly.
I don't know, maybe it's my age, but somehow that seems more real. That whole, I think Game of Thrones had a little bit of this, reading it, in that major characters would disappear, and some random person down the line would say, "Oh, he got stabbed in the back of an tree in the river." Like, oh, that's right.
He was only contracted for 4 episodes. We can't have him in 5.
You can't have him in any more, but we're going to have to mention where he's gone. So, like I said, though, it's that kind of treatment to Blake 7 that somehow adds to the realism.
Mm.
It's people trundling along doing their best with no real overview. It's not like there's a massive story arc to go with that people have to conform to, and it gives it that.
Sometimes not doing their best, sometimes doing it extremely grudgingly, which I think is
grudgingly,
another.
poorly.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, if I must,
You can really relate to those characters, though.
Exactly.
I mean, Star Trek is great. I love it,
Mhm.
but at the same time, these people don't want to be there, and in a way, that's kind of more real.
All that high achieving, I would totally be like Phila. That's precisely what I would be like, I think.
I don't want to be on watch. I want to be drunk in my quarters.
This is a terrible situation. I've got a kind of fascist galactic empire on my tail. I just want to be out of here. Which Avon does a lot of as well. This is clearly mad. We're all going to die. I wish to be away from here as quickly as possible until he kind of, gets converted in his own weird way.
In an accidental way, it kind of discusses freedom under this regime. Avon probably has the right idea. Get loads of money, go to some distant planet, and just pay to be not bothered by it all. Whereas Blake's freedom is to smash the system and let everybody live in the chaos. And then you've got Servalan's freedom, which is, the only way to have something for myself here is power.
To run the show.
The power to not have other people telling me what to do.
Exactly.
And that's part of why the Federation, for me, in Blake 7 is probably one of the most terrifying sort of dystopian systems, totalitarian systems of the future. One, because as you learn through the seasons, it plays both sides of the coin. There's nowhere to go. And it's subtle, and it's been around for a long time. And it doesn't even serve anybody anymore. It's that boot in a human face for all eternity. But there isn't even a foot in the boot.
And you get the impression that, all the kind of upper echelon people that we see are all living in the abject poverty of a 1970s BBC studio. It's not
a pop plant.
It's not glossy, is it? The Dome City. It looks absolutely shocking.
But everybody, that's the thing, you see, that's the nail on the head. Everybody under the Federation is impoverished somehow. Not necessarily the clothes and food and money and that kind of thing, but as a human being, it doesn't matter who you are in the Federation, you're crushed in some manner, and everybody is dysfunctional because of it.
No, completely
agree. Blake 7 is a show that understands about the banality of evil. There's so many people we encounter over the series who are just kind of doing their jobs. Even though they're doing terrible things.
And you usually get shot for it. In some way or other.
You can get shot for doing what you were asked, or just getting on with it, or saying the wrong thing. And in that sense, how did Douglas Adams describe it? Not as impersonal as a fist thrown randomly in a bar, but as a computer-issued parking ticket.
That's very nice. Good old Douglas Adams. He always has it. Yeah.
And the scary thing is you can kind of see how that would happen. But I mean, Blake 7 doesn't have the knowledge of the technology we have today. But I think if Blake 7 was remade today, it would, in fact, be exceptionally scary.
And it's already there with things like I think of the Justice Machine in the way back. It's already there in a kind of as we steadily sort of assign more and more of our day-to-day functions to LLMs. How long before the judicial system is? Well, we handed that over to AI, and surely there's nothing wrong with paying those guys at ChatGPT to run the justice system for us. Hang on a minute, lads. So all of those sorts of things, and then even in Deathwatch, that's a kind of computer-controlled war, isn't it? So I think it's prescient in some ways. It's prescient in the ways that thinking how computer automated systems might have an impact on our life and depersonalize them. It's not prescient in the way that the technology looks. But then even in the 90s, they don't get that. I say this a lot, but in Deep Space Nine, people are walking around with stacks of what they call pads, which are basically iPads. but they've got one for every file they're reading. Yeah, they've not thought that it's data, so you can push it up there. They just missed that leap. And Blake 7 is not going to have anything like that.
No.
But I felt a bit differently. I was watching Seek, Locate, Destroy again, which I think you suggested. I just finished watching Andor season 2. And I felt a lot more respect for that security robot, actually, because with a little bit more money, that's exactly what they've got on Andor. That kind of retro future. Yeah. That in Andor is a kind of double thing of, well, we're trying to make it look like Star Wars. And Star Wars was designed in the 70s, but we can't make it look dated, except in the way we want it to look dated. Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. And the security robot in that they have in season 1 in particular, I don't think it pops up again, does it? It now looks like that to me. It's sort of, if they just had a bit more, like you say, if they didn't have the budget of Softly Task Force, then we might have had a few more rivets or something, or it would have looked less cobbled together.
I like how it flamethrowers everything that just moves in the wind in an obvious chemical plant, because that's nice and safe.
No, exactly.
It made one more appearance in Project Avalon. And
Did it? Is it just one more?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah. I wasn't sure if it popped up again towards the end of the season, but no, I think you're right.
It trundles up and down the corridor.
Now, you mentioned Seek, Locate, Destroy there, and indeed that is Amy's choice. Because, as is usual when we're tackling a big series of many seasons, I like the guests to kind of pick one episode to focus on. Seek, Locate, Destroy. Stealing a code machine from a maximum security complex is complicated by the arrival of Space Commander Travis, personally assigned by Supreme Commander Servalan to eliminate Blake and capture the Liberator. So, I'm going to say, what drew you to Seek, Locate, Destroy, Amy?
It's halfway through the first series. So you've met all the heroes at this point. You've got a good idea what they're like, how they work as a dynamic. You've already heard a lot about the Federation, and you've certainly got no reason to like them. But up until this point, until you meet the faces of the Federation, which I'll go on to in a second, there are odd characters that give you the impression, and I love this because Terry Nation, of course, gave us the ultimate master race, the Daleks. As long as you don't have to pay money for me mentioning them. And it's a nice, easy child's version of sort of fascism. They're just, you can't join them. You serve them or you die. But in Blake 7, I think it's a bit of a pet subject for Terry Nation because he gets really deep with it. And you get a sense from some of the characters that however it's going, it wasn't always like that, or it wasn't always so obvious about it. Because you get characters like Foster at the beginning, who obviously still thinks peaceful protest is an option. You get the captain of the London, who complains that it wasn't always like this. He's very old, he's very tired. He does not like Raker's approach to things. He's not going to say anything, but he insists on putting through a full report, of course. The military men who don't want Travis. You just get these odd places where you think, this is a new wave that's sort of coming through in the Federation, and it's a nasty one. It might have been authoritarian before. You've met characters. They're smugglers, they're thieves, they're fraudsters. They're not unreasonable people for the system to deal with. We know we've had Blake, and he has been treated atrociously, so we know there's something going on. But, the lawyer still believes he can do something by the book. So up until Seek, Locate, Destroy, you've got this idea that maybe it's just nasty people using the system, and maybe it is. But on Seek, Locate, Destroy, of course, you see the characters running a campaign against the Federation in an organised manner for the first time. And they do pretty well. Obviously, it goes wrong. Callie accidentally gets left behind. They can't go back for her. It will kill everybody. The writing in Blake 7 is incredibly tight. You can look for a plot hole if you like, but there will be an answer in there, and it won't be shoved down your throat. It won't be silly generally. It'll be there. She gets into a fight, she loses a bracelet, she's left behind. They think she must be dead, and that's how they assuage their conscience and move on. And then, of course, they get the message to say that she isn't. And Blake will go back for her. In walks Travis, this is his great plan. We all know Travis. This man is a samurai sword, folded and hardened by his military service in the Federation, to the point of just kind of the reasonable side of psychosis, I suppose. And we learn, of course, that he hates Blake because Blake was the man who tried to kill him. Blake was the man who injured him. He's got the eye, the arm, and everything. So it becomes personal at this point for Travis. But of course, the more interesting character we meet in this one is Servalan. Everybody loves Servalan. We know we do. You can't hate her, actually. And I'm not even going to call her a villain. She's a villainess, like a duchess or a tigress. She is something I'm not sure has been done since. Certainly not in the same way. I mean, I read somewhere that the part had been written for a man, and then they got Jacqueline Pearce in. And they did the sensible thing. They didn't do a rewrite for a woman. They just gave her the script and let her do a thing. And for the first time, you've got a sort of female villain who isn't the evil queen who wants to be the fairest in the land, or just some ugly witch who likes being evil. She doesn't actually care about Blake. He's just an inconvenience in her power trip. He's a thorn in her ambitions. She just wants rid and fully expects to at this point. She has the weight of the Galactic Federation behind her. The gang in question that these guys are supposed to get rid of is 100-year-old, star-spanning gunman. It's a huge enemy. But she's now the face of it. And what an amazing face she is. One for the ages. So the fact that you finally get these faces of the Federation, and one's basically a psychotic killer, but an extremely intelligent one. He isn't just a raging ball of violence. He is a genuine threat. But equally, Servalan is a genuine threat. In a ball gown. The woman never gets dirty. She can be on a bloody planet. Teflon clothes in the future are amazing. And like I say, you've suddenly got this duo in them, and you think, this Federation is not going to be easy to beat. It is smart. It is ruthless. It has its wits about it. And you've got a job on. It's not just big. It's clever. And it's subversive. And it's subtle. And, of course, each season of Blake 7 evolves to find out just how insurmountable that is. Liberator Destroy is an incredibly straightforward episode story-wise. And I'm speaking from the point of view of people who probably know it. But it allows us to start building from then on just how big a task this is and just how dangerous it is as well.
Yeah.
It's not going to be fun.
Brilliant. I love all that. How about yourself, Una, on watching Seek, Locate, Destroy?
Yeah, no, everything that Amy said really. It's a moment where you kind of it ups the ante, doesn't it? We've sort of had that opening trilogy, and then maybe we get a bit distracted with the web. It's a bit of an odd episode that I think they're still thinking of themselves a little bit like a British Star Trek at that point, maybe a science fiction anthology of the week show. But it really is with Seek, Locate, Destroy that I think we start to see really what's at the heart of this show, which is this battle between our heroes, such as they are the Liberator, and the people who are the Federation. And they're an amazing, just a great pair of performers, and so different what they're bringing. Not just the way they're dressed black and white, but his sort of straight up and down, and her much more calculated and scheming and manipulative. And it's interesting what you were saying about before about there's a sense that there's something different happening in the Federation at the moment, because I've often had that sense as well, that there's a new guard coming in, and that guard is represented by people like Servalan. And my sense, if I'm trying to give her credit for her sort of ruthlessness, is that I have a feeling that things are falling apart, and that Servalan's rise to power, I mean, obviously she likes being powerful, but I think her justification is that there needs to be a strong hand here, otherwise this is going to be chaos. We've got to hold this together, and I'm come the moment, come the villainess, yeah. And I think that's her justification in her mind, and that's kind of my sense of what her motivations are, and that kind of explains the urgency and the ruthlessness. She's got no time for the Burkholls and the Rontaines, the generation ahead of her, these people who are bureaucrats and are sitting on Earth, getting a bit plump. She's seeing revolution, collapse, all these sorts of things. She wants to head it off. She's not going to have it. And that makes her it's somebody you want to watch. You want to see what's going to happen, what this person is going to do. It helps that she's stunning. Just magnetic. And I think we're all used to that extremely glamorous Servalan by the end. But what I quite like about in this episode is she's quite petite. She's sometimes quite, when she's sort of presenting a public face, or when she's not the boss in the room, she's quite demure in many ways. Very demure. I know that's kind of a thing now, but there's something quite contained and constrained about her. We don't, obviously she's not president yet, so there's something, she's holding back a little just to sort of, because she's not the most powerful person. She's never intended to be the most powerful person. And then Stephen Greif just strides in like, an absolute boss, So, isn't it incredible? I didn't strike me as quite long in being a Blake Seven viewer. He's only in 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it?
And part of that is a stunt double filming his legs because he's done his Achilles tendon in. So, and it's just, what a presence, what an impact. I
love his Travis, because he like you say, he just strides in there, like confidence. He is going to win, but gradually as he gets more and more embarrassed by Blake, let's face it, Blake goes out of his way to he knows exactly how to needle Travis. You're not worth killing.
Yeah.
That's a very good put down. He does.
Yeah.
Stephen gives us this Travis who does start to doubt himself. You can see it in his eyes. Again, that Shakespearean talent. It's there, and it gives us this Travis that you can see how, when we get into season 2 and he flips, where that vulnerability's crept in to make him turn full psychotic by season 2.
There's a moment where I think is where Travis cracks, and it's where he's it's in the last 2 parts. I can't remember exactly which one it is. The last 2 parts are in season 1, and he realizes that Marriott is the who's the doctor who sort of saved his life. He realizes that this guy is going to get sacrificed, and Servalan gives him this kind of, well, does this matter? She's almost impatient, and you see him think, oh well, does it matter? And you realize that maybe 5 years ago it would have mattered, and now he's looking and he's going, actually no, it doesn't anymore. And you go, all right, that's the moment where I think Travis snaps in many ways. It's just this quiet break with any kind of decency. And he's a mass murderer, but one with scruples. But I think that's the moment where whatever Travis was, he makes that break with it, I think.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, I've never actually thought of it in those terms, but now you've mentioned it, I can see it. There's always been that point where I've thought there's something going on here, and that is it. That's the point where he loses it.
And look at his face when he does that. It's like a moment of, does this matter? I feel like it should, but if I'm being honest, it doesn't anymore. It's all about killing Blake. And that stopped being acting for the good of the Federation. That's just become violence. That's become mindless violence. A vendetta
that ultimately ends up in is bizarre reasoning that destroying the entirety of humanity and the galaxy might actually just include Blake.
Well, if you take out everything, you're going to take Blake with it, aren't you? The kind of collateral damage. It's a bit of a blunt weapon, but
It's fascinating. I mean, I can fully agree with both of you on Seek, Locate, Destroy. It's an episode that's, I mean, it looks deceptively simple, but there's so much under the surface looking at. I think I would just add on, and I would use it as a teaching example. If bizarrely I was teaching writing.
Yeah.
So is the opening mission part when they're breaking into the Federation facility, and it's a brilliant how all those characters are very quickly established who everybody is in that
Mm.
opening sequence. And it's just I just love the clever economy that goes into that. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only thing I'd say is you can tell that Blake was never a primary school teacher because he would have counted all those kids back in.
Absolutely.
None of
No,
that
yeah.
futzing around for 15 minutes going, oh, is anyone seeing Callie? It's like, are you all back? Are you all back? Are you all back? Great, I'm not going to get sued. Yeah.
Absolutely. It is again that thing like, oh wow, this was really well planned and went really well.
Yeah.
No, we've lost somebody.
we forgot something crucial. Yeah.
We didn't keep to the buddy system.
Exactly that. Yeah. We'll go in a crocodile next time.
But even though that's the reason why Travis can set a trap for Blake, and why we end up with a little bit of exposition about their history, and Blake essentially tells us his plan based on that, which again is excellent writing, telling you what's going to happen by describing something in the past and saying, I'm going to do what he did. It doesn't feel stupid. It doesn't feel stupid that Callie got left behind, and now they're fully aware that going to save her is a trap, but that is exactly what they're going to do. I mean, they wouldn't be the good guys if they didn't go back for it.
No, not really.
No, and also, you finally see that Blake is a man who is worth following.
Yeah.
He does have that loyalty for you. And that would make the others feel, feel that he is, worth following into these really stupid escapades against a huge enemy on a slightly personal vendetta.
but he would do this for us. Yeah.
Well, we're going to skip along now, and a lot happens between these two episodes. By the time we get to Deathwatch, which is Una's choice, there's no Blake anymore. There's two new members of the team, and I would love to hear why you chose this particular episode. Deathwatch. Tarrant's elder brother, Dieter, is competing in a televised gladiatorial combat to settle an interplanetary dispute. Servalan is overseeing as an impartial arbiter, but she is secretly manipulating the contest to escalate the conflict into a full-scale war.
Well, I suppose partly because, like I told you at the start, when I came into Blake 7, sort of, I think naturally I sort of think of season 3 as what the show's really like. As it's the first one I saw. But I do think that by season 3 they've absolutely got it working like clockwork. And I think in this episode in particular, this episode moves like a machine. It's just I watched it back the other day, and I just sort of leaned back partway through. I was trying to take notes, and I just realised, first of all, I would just be writing down line after line of dialogue. It's like Chris Boucher just fires on all cylinders, zinger after zinger after zinger after zinger. The construction of the story is brilliant. The way that all 5, and this doesn't happen in every episode of Blake 7, each one of the 5 central cast have to do something which plays to their strengths and to their sort of each one of them pushes forward the story in some way, and then you have the kind of menace and machinations of Servalan, plus some absolutely fantastic guest characters. So you've got the TV producers at the start who have this little, the presenter and the producer are kind of bitching each other. Classic Bob Holmes duo that Chris Boucher's adopted. You've got Max, who's sort of the aide to Dieter Tarrant, who's the champion. And then on top of this, you've got this glorious little bit of world building at the Teal Vandal convention, and a really, really, really nifty science fiction device of them. The reason that this war matters and the way that they're able to organize war in this way is that they all experience what their champion is experiencing it. So I just love this episode. I think I interviewed Chris Boucher once at a convention, and I said I just thought this was absolutely perfect episode. It's just nothing is wasted. Everything is beautiful. It's so. He really loved it. He was really proud of it as well. He thought it was It's just like you put that episode on, and 49 minutes later you go, I really love Blake Seven. That's given me everything. That's given me everything. And then, of course, they've got the Avon and Servalan clinch, which is not what Chris Boucher wanted, but but we all enjoy it. Yeah.
Do I smell ad lib?
Yeah, that. So he was interviewed about this. That he said was not scripted, and if I'd known they were going to have done that, I would have scripted against it. He really didn't like that dynamic, but we all do, unfortunately. Yeah, and the immortal line. I'm ready to come up now. It's all every line is just zinging. It's just great ones where Dieter is faced off by Max, who's the champion from the other side, and not Max, sorry, Vinny. Vinny is kind of mouthing off and giving him, this. And Dee's just like, oh God, these kids, you're going to look pretty silly flat on your back with a face full of footprints. She's perfect. How many times have I wanted to be able to use that in everyday life? So it's perfectly constructed. The dialogue is great, and the characters just all move piece by piece to do this great episode. I think I really, really love it.
I know what you mean about you end up just writing down nearly every line because it is incredibly witty. I think one of my favourite lines is Villa's about Aurak when he says, could we redesign him as empty space? I think he'd look really good as empty space.
I don't care how you do it, so long as you put it on the main screen. Yes. And then just at the start, where you get Cara, is she Cara or Cara, and Dieter Tarrant meet, and how quickly we establish that this man is famous and why he's famous. And then just her lines of when somebody tries to kill him, he turns the gun on her. And he says this line about, there'll be a summons to justification. This stuff about the blood feud. There will be no summons to. This is all really tight world building of this scenario. It's just really done really effortlessly. And I watched it at 8 when I was 8 and must have missed the point of all of this. But when you watch it back and you kind of understand the setup, you go, that's so skillfully done in just a handful of lines. It's not exposition. It's people immersed in this world, and it's just lovely. I love it.
Because I happen to have an open book here. It was Carla, played by
thank you.
Played by Catherine Idon.
Catherine Idon, yeah, Cathy Idon. That's a lovely little performance. There's one scene in Blake 7, and she brings everything to it, I think. Yeah.
How about yourself, Amy? How do you feel watching Deathwatch?
Well, I watched it again yesterday just to refresh myself because it's firstly I have to agree with everything Una said there. Yet again, it's that wonderful thing Blake 7 does, the economy and skill of the writing and the narrative that you often just don't see anymore. As soon as something gets a budget, the first person they sack's the writer, it appears. It's like that lack of exposition, the dialogue, the instant character. Just a lot of people who know exactly what they're doing. They're bringing it straight to it. There's no messing about. And you are filled in 5 minutes. And things are there's a nice little bit of mystery, which of course becomes important later on, without being klaxoned or shoehorned or anything else. It's just all there. So watching this again yesterday, I got a new appreciation for Deathwatch, because it's not that I ever disliked it or anything else. I just, watching it years ago and again only 3 or 4 years ago, it's always stuck with me as one of the sci-fi episodes. And I think it's because watching things now, there is that one that turns up where somebody's playing their own twin, that kind of thing. Kind of unusually, I think, sometimes for Blake 7. It discusses the morals. There are conversations about, so they're having a war and it's just 2 people. What kind of war is that? 2 people discussing it like a boxing match. Now, and you come down on the side, and is it better to have a war between champions, and give up 3 planets, or which personally I would say,
yes.
Or should you just all fight it out and kill millions? I don't know why you'd come down on that side. Maybe I'm missing something really.
Well, you would if you were Servalan and you want to move in and mop up afterwards. Yeah, I didn't even mention the doubles, and I think that's because Stephen Pacey is so good. And I mean, obviously, I know it's Stephen Pacey in a wig, but he's so different from Del. Yeah. Del is very our Terrence is very cocky, very arrogant. He's the hero of this. In his mind, he's captain of the Liberator. And Dieter's this older, slightly tired man, a little really quite jaded, but still it's like watching Roger Federer's last tennis match or something, or that kind of thing. Yeah, there's a sort of weariness about him. And whenever I watch it, I never doubt that those are 2 different people, even when it's obviously Stephen Pacey in a wig. I
have to agree.
Just don't doubt it.
I have to completely agree. Stephen Pacey very rarely gets to show his acting chops in Blake 7, but like everyone else, they are there. And it's absolutely believable that this is Del Tarrant's big brother.
Yep.
Like you said, they're completely different people, but they're not. You can tell that they grew up together. You can tell, there's things about them that are the same fundamentally, but they are different people. If only for their love of sideburns. But it's an excellent episode. And I noticed as well that it's quite comic, but it never loses sight of itself. And it also never gets too, I won't say serious. It never gets too dark in itself either. It knows exactly where to stop at both ends.
It's poignant and it's emotional. That's
you feel for everybody, even Villa experiencing older Tarrant's death. You feel for the fact that this character you've known for 5 minutes is dead, and he shouldn't be.
He shouldn't be.
You feel intrinsically that he shouldn't be.
And that you feel the grief of it as well. It's that and having to say goodbye basically to in front of however million people that he's just it's just wonderfully done. And Tarrant trying to pull himself together. Tarrant, I assume you have no tedious scruples about cheating and lying. None at all.
No, none at all.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that was an ad lib as well, the kiss, because it does stick out a tiny bit. It suddenly appears. I mean, from an actor's point of view, it's like, did one of them not want to do that? And the answer is one of them wasn't expecting it.
Oh no, they were. I think they ad libbed it together. Those 2 could get their hands off each other. I mean, he was extremely happily married, but there's this there's this incredible chemistry between them, which I don't. There's a wonderful picture of Jackie and Paul where it's about 10 or 15 years on from Blake 7. And it's like a Bergman and Bogart picture of him kind of leaning over, about to kiss her. And they're like Antony and Cleopatra. It's just incredible chemistry between the 2 of them. And I guess they're thinking, well, if there's chemistry like this should be on screen.
We're going to waste an opportunity like this. Fan service. But equally, I've always explained away that little bit to myself, to a certain extent, that of course Avon's, why not? You're there, mate. But at the same time, that he recognises that Servalan very much uses sex as a weapon. And if he can get Servalan to think that he does have these feelings for him, she will then have an element in her planning, if you like, that isn't true. That it's a gap he can use, that he isn't as enamoured with her as maybe she thinks because of his reaction. He's playing the sex as a weapon back, because that would be typical Avon.
She's content to kiss Avon because who would exactly that.
Fair enough.
And she does that beautiful smile she does afterwards. She's one of her most are just luminous, that smile she gives after all. It's not a major violation. I found this really I know you're an actor, Amy. I've at conventions we've done that scene in a kind of, we've run a panel that's like an acting scene.
Yeah.
And we've taken that scene out and done it with different, saying, okay, well, let's change the dynamic, make you two different people, and what could we do with that scene instead? And it's been really interesting what people have managed to do. In just with that bit of dialogue, and said, well, you're a character like this and you're a character like that. And somehow none of us managed to get to an absolute, sizzler of a kiss. But that's the way the actors chose. Yeah.
Well, there's that bit in the cancer one, the assassin one, where where Sulin says, there are two classic ways to deal with a hysterical woman: either kiss her or slap her.
Yeah.
And you're like, at this point, he's either going to kiss her or shoot
slap
her.
her. Yeah. Or in sarcophagus, both. Yeah.
Okay. And season. It's funny because I adore series A and B, but like you say, C is probably the one that you have the softest spot for of all
I
the
think
seasons.
I think it's got possibly I think it's probably got some of the best episodes. You've got things like Rumors of Death, Sarcophagus, Terminal, Deathwatch, which I absolutely love, Aftermath and Power Play. Yeah, City at the Edge of the World. I think there are some weak ones, but I think when it's good, you kind of go, Blake 7 doesn't get better than this, actually. City, Rumours, all these things I think are just really strong. And there's a confidence in Chris Boucher. I think he knows that what his show is about, and maybe he's been freed up a little bit to do it. It just has a very different, it has a very strong feel, and it is distinctive from those first two seasons. But I think it works for it. I nearly picked Sarcophagus for this, which is my favourite episode of Blake 7, but I know is not typical. So, but Deathwatch, I think, just it's the quintessential Blake 7 episode for me. It's the one I would go, nothing in this fails. Everything is great. Yes, I know it's the same actor in a wig, but I promise you.
Yeah, it's always that thing in Blake 7, isn't it? It's an excellent. I know there's a dodgy robot, but it's an excellent episode. Exactly. I'm really sorry about Baker Foil Baby in a box.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the rest? It's like,
don't worry about that.
Yeah. And a lot. I think watching it for the first time, I realised that a lot of the ridicule I had heard about Blake 7 was obviously people who either had dipped into it and weren't really that interested, or hadn't bothered at all. The old "I'm going to criticise this and I've never seen it" crowd.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things thrown at it, all right, like I said, it tuppence halfpenny budget, but what are you going to do? Yep. You're going to do your best, and that's it.
Yeah.
Why judge it by that? Why judge it by some odd sort of choices of costume occasionally?
Yeah.
It's people sat in their job at the BBC going, oh, we're going to make this one different. We've got 10 pence. I know, we'll dress everybody as a giant cockroach. And just people being allowed to be imaginative. The BBC's always been at its best when it doesn't know what to do with something, and it just kind of leaves them alone in a corner to get on with it. Like Monty Python, with no idea what's going on here. Just leave them. And that's how they get something miraculous. And I have to say about Chris Boucher as well, that considering Terry Nation wrote the first 14 episodes and sort of 2 or 3 after that, so it really was his baby. Chris Boucher picks that up and makes more out of it. He doesn't change it. He doesn't mess with it. He puts his own stamp on it by building it. Because even season 2, the B, is a different animal to the first one. I nearly picked Shadow, for instance.
Yeah,
it's another turning point, because up till then the Federation's been this oppressive government and so on and so forth, and it's pretty bad. But in Shadow, you learn that it's actually really is morally corrupt as well.
I think there's a lot of Chris Boucher in some of the things like Bounty and Breakdown. I think have a lot of Chris Boucher, and I think where they were with the scripts by the end of season 1 was that they were coming in very short by that point, and Nation was, well, I can give you the 2-parter at the end, or I can rewrite these. So I think a lot of things like Bounty and Breakdown, possibly Project Avalon, I'm not quite sure. I think there's quite a lot of Chris Boucher in those. And having looked at sort of earlier drafts and things, but certainly, the shape of it is Nations. But then like you say, you get into kind of Shadow and Weapon, and you go, all right, they're distinctively Chris Boucher. That's a Chris Boucher episode.
They just get better,
Yeah.
So I mean, I've read a lot about Terry Nation as a writer, and the distinct impression I get is that, for instance, from a poor old art design, set design point of view, he'll write a corridor on our spaceship, and you're just going, oh, thanks, mate.
What do I do with
15
that?
of these to design.
Exactly. Get the Nation Corridor B out of storage.
Put some pink curtains up.
I'd like to, before we sort of wrap up, I'd like to go to talk a little bit about season 4 and your feelings on that, which saw a bit of a change in style, although it's still very much the same series, but they changed it around a bit, and how you feel about season 4 and how it developed.
I mean, I love season 4. Again, I think it's there's a handful of weak episodes, I think, just as they're sort of settling into it. But I think very, very quickly you get a whole set of really strong scripts. So Headhunter, I really like. I think there are problems with Assassin, but there are partly in performance, I think. But again, I think it's a strong episode. And then when you get into things like Sand, Gold, Orbit, Blake, these are crackers. They're absolutely great, So I think partly, I know there's a lot more writers, but I think there's a sort of tighter. I think Boucher's got a tighter control than what he's only got the 2 episodes that he writes, hasn't he? But I think it's very tight, the script editing by then, and I think maybe a little formulaic in places. And obviously we missed Liberator, and it feels much more 80s than it does 70s. But I think you could have got another season out of this show. And then of course Blake is just an absolute masterpiece. It's just relentlessly good.
Again, I agree. I think after a decidedly sort of shaky start there, you've got your picture of Dorian Gray episode. I personally really like the Sea Devil.
I like Recipe. Traitor is another really good early one. That kind of that Bob Holmes episode. You got that behind the scenes and a really nasty Federation again. Those awful sort of officers sipping the liqueurs as they kind of mass murder. So even early in that season, I think you got some pretty strong entries. For a long time, I had a shtick where I defended animals as I was quite precise. I argued it was not the worst episode of Blake 7, but it was purely an internet shtick that I kept up for a long time. Though I'm not sure it is. I think it's boring, and I think it's problematic that they have to change Callie's part to Dana, which makes it a bit dodgy, doesn't it? But other than that, I think there's some quite good stuff in Animals. But season 4's really, it's consistent, and when it's good, it's very, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly obviously ramps up to an absolute classic last couple of episodes. Like you say, Tanith Lee just knows exactly how to write the episodes of Blake 7 we don't normally get, the really emotional ones, but with the full understanding of what these characters are about and where she can go with them. I mean, the temptation for her to probably put Avon down on the planet with Tarrant instead. I'm sure she wrote that somewhere. But she has the sense not to. She makes it Tarrant instead, because we've kind of seen that, and it would come across a bit dull. But Tarrant makes it so much of a different dynamic. In the way that when they swap in Deliverance, when it was supposed to be Blake who went down, but they swapped it to Avon because of the Aurak episode and so on. They had the reason. It makes it so much more interesting.
Blake would absolutely believe that you're worshipping him as a god.
Avon would just like to.
Avon's like kind of a bit embarrassed about it. And then obviously Avon is absolutely furious with Tarrant. You've been playing around with my girl, it's so obviously brilliant. It's great stuff, and she's great again. Oh, Terence, I'm just the girl next door.
Again, though, but it's this thing, like I said, where Blake Seven's accidentally brave. It writes things and then says, "Oh, do you know what? Scribble out Blake's name. Swap Blake and Avon around. That's not a man, that's a woman. Oh, let's not put them down there. Let's do that." But they don't actually change the script.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I hate, it's kind of writing. It's a woman. Let's write a woman. Write a person and give it to a woman or a man or
exactly.
whatever, and let them do it, and you'll get something. You'll get something better. So, but yes, like I say, Sand, Orbit. You can't.
Fantastic.
You cannot fault what goes on in Orbit, can you? Really? That bit with Villa. I mean, you see again Avon when Aurak suggests, Villa way is just the right way. We need to shove off this ship. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Aurak doesn't care. Aurak has no scruples whatsoever.
Don't shove me. Shove that useless lump.
Aurak doesn't want to be a pile of rubble. And you can use again like that point you say with Stephen Greif. You see a point at which Avon breaks. He does stand there and go, "I can't do. No, I can." And you almost feel devastated for him. What the last bit of humanity he didn't think he had. has just been very severely torn at that point.
And what's worse is it's about to get worse.
and he isn't going to get better from there. And then again, you get after that Villa completely. Season 4, I do actually like season 4 again for its bravery because you see the characters disintegrate. Taran loses his confidence quite a lot. You see Taran quietly crushed. You see Villa ending up in the bottom of a bottle that almost seems inevitable from the start. Avon cracks up. There's no two ways about it. I remember in an interview somewhere, Paul Darrow saying that he did find the scripts for season 4 very inconsistent character-wise, and for him, the only way of playing it was that Avon was losing it. But what a brave thing to do! You're this character that women want him, men want to be him, but no, he's going to crack him up. To the point where he shoots. Spoiling it now, ultimate spoiler. The point where he shoots, he's so paranoid, he shoots Blake. I mean, he is paranoid by the end. It's a startling disintegration of, in a way you never see. Other things pretend to do it, but they always resolve it happily at the end, or in some way. It's that 70s nihilism, isn't it? The disaster movies and thing. But at the same time, it's disintegration. That's the only way I can do it. And what program ever just tears its characters apart by the end?
It's absolute gem.
Before Christmas, I would remember. I watched this on first transmission. 9 years old, just before Christmas. Thank you very much, Chris Boucher.
It was absolutely a shocking ending. I haven't seen anything like it. Well, normally at this point I ask for a summing up, but you've been doing such a good job at summing up Blake 7. I don't need to. It's been brilliant. But before we wrap up, I'd like to talk about something that's equally interesting, which is what you're both getting up to at the moment. So I'll start with Amy. Have you got any what projects you've?
Oh well, as you know, I tend to focus on my family these days, rather doing very much professionally. But I keep my hand in; it's a good hobby. So I am going to give a little plug. In October, in Dinnington, it's a tiny little theatre called the Lyric. I am playing Annie in Calendar Girls.
Oh, brilliant!
If you want to see more of me than you ever wanted to see of me, then that's shaping up to be a really nice team and a really nice production.
Lovely.
That one
really
as well.
nice.
So, we're doing Calendar Girls.
Calendar Girls, a great ensemble show that could do with a Blake 7 ending. I think.
If it isn't depressing enough, let's go full Hamlet.
And how about yourself, Una?
Well, I think the thing that I've got coming out at the moment, which is very exciting, is my novelisation of the Doctor Who episode, The Robot Revolution. So, which was the first episode of the season that's just finished. That was the first one with 15th Doctor and Belinda. So that comes out in about a couple of weeks, I think. So keep an eye out for that. It was loads of fun doing that one. So if there are any small Doctor Who fans, or indeed larger Doctor Who fans in your life, that's something that I think they will enjoy.
Oh, well, I'm going to look forward immensely to both things, definitely. So it just remains me to say thank you very much for sharing all your
Pleasure.
passion and insight. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much at home for you who've been listening, and look forward to us all meeting again.
Yeah. Thank
Indeed.
you. That was good fun.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Blake 7 has been released on VHS by BBC Video and later Fabulous Films. BBC Worldwide released 4 DVD box sets in the UK, then re-released it as a complete box set in some European territories. Recently, Season 1 was released on Blu-ray with optional remastered effects. At the time of broadcast, it is available to stream on ITVX. Very British Futures is hosted and produced by Gareth Preston, with special guests Una McCormack and Amy Elizabeth. Music by Chattery Art. If you can take a moment to rate us on your podcast app, that would be much appreciated. You can get in touch with the podcast via Very British Futures Podcast at gmail.com. Follow us on X, Twitter at FuturesVery, or visit our Facebook page. This has been a Phantom Frame production.